Hello everybody and welcome to the 10th round of the UK and Ireland Radical Race Series here for 2022 as we head back to the United Kingdom for the first time in 7 weeks of this championship. It's Oulton Park this time around, a slightly shortened version of the full layout where we'll be turning right at Island Bend instead of going left, and we're set for another fantastic week of racing. 1 week ago we were in Germany for the Hockenheim round and it was an absolutely fantastic race indeed. The battles outside of the top three also were definitely the most interesting and provided a lot of racing for us at that great circuit. We're travelling to another great circuit here today with very little room for errors, and so it should be another good race in this championship. My name's Ewan O'Leary, I'll be along Steve Proudly for this one, and the first talking point, Steve, as it was last week, Simon Edwards not here once again, at least as we could see 10 minutes ago. He's still not here at the moment. He's still got a little bit of time, but it doesn't look like he's going to be attending for the second week in a row, which does open the door. It starts to leave the door ajar for Paul LeMay in second place.
Yeah, absolutely. Good evening, Ewan. Yeah, and you stole my thunder there because I was going to bring up that point of Mr. Edwards not attending this round, or as you say, he's got time to turn up yet, but he's not on the practice session at this moment. So that does definitely give Paul LeMay an opportunity to massively reduce that gap if he can bring home a win. He hasn't had a win this season though, so the odds potentially stacked against him. At Oulton Park, it is a tight, twisty circuit. The Radicals will find it fun round here, but I think they will find it it's going to be difficult for some overtaking, and we've seen this field is quite tight when it gets split into its battle packs. The guys do find it difficult to overtake, but I think we should have a look at the championship before the guys go out for qualifying.
Yes, we probably should before we go any further, so let's do that now. Simon Edwards, as I mentioned, is the leader with 300 points, 4 wins and 4 second places in the 8 rounds he's attended. Has got him 300 points so far. 61 points back, it's Paul LeMay, followed by Graham Brown in third place and Paul Clark there, and separated by 2 points. A good battle to watch between those two. Then we've got Martin Booker, a good 20 odd points back from that. Mike Booson just outside the top 10 with Dave Kirkman. Darrow Taylor only 1 point behind him, ahead of John McCutchinson, who's only attended 4 rounds. But he's won all 4, so he's in 9th position at the moment. And Michael LeMay rounding out your top 10 for this championship here. So with 120 points on the table, mathematically only 5 drivers can still win this championship, but that might not even be true. It might even be less than that, given the drop weeks that we have yet to factor in to those championship standings. I think, well, I'm not sure really when we're going to start to do that, to be quite honest. But we'll find out, I suppose. When we get towards the end of the season. Anyway, it's still looking very good for Simon Edwards to take his second championship in a row, and that's what he'll aim to do next week at Barber Motorsports Park. We'll be heading across the pond for our penultimate round of this championship before the finale at the Nordschleife, which is going to be a very exciting race indeed. Here is qualifying though, 10 minutes and just 3 laps for these guys to get themselves sorted, and these guys are just going to wind things up really, as we've seen week after week. Just get yourself a solid first lap or 2 and then really go for it in the final lap, and then, yeah, well, I was about to say then they'll be on the limit, but Paul Crabb looked like he pretty much was, just going through Cascades, the left-hander there.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, they're coming round Old Hall Corner off the start-finish straight down the avenue, and it's a bit of a roller coaster there, down Denton's into Cascades, and as you say, Crab just looking like he's really pushing from the off. And yeah, as we've said many times, he just enters there into the Hislops and through Knickebrook. It's difficult, isn't it? 3 laps, you've got to hit that perfect lap time if you can, and get to the front of the grid, because one make championships like this with a good battling field, it's hard to fight your way through. So it's all about qualifying, and that's where we're at now. And Paul Crabb's coming round to finish, I think, his first flying lap, so we'll see what time he can get on the board.
Well, Christopher Kane is the first one to cross the line out of everybody, but he's immediately displaced by Dave Dowson by about half a second. We're already into the 14th, by the way. Short laps around here on this shortened circuit. Phil Glover slots in at the back, with Martin Booker now going towards the front with a low 14 up towards the top right now. Paul LeMay over the line, and it's only 5th for him early on there. Not a great start for him, but he's still got time to wind things up. Paul Crabb, as we were looking at him throughout the most of that lap there, he ended up 5th in that lap times. But early on, it's Martin Booker, who had a good week at Hockenheim, I think it's safe to say. good battles going on up and down the field. We got to talk to him as well, just a little bit after the race on that one, and it was good to hear from him. It looked like he enjoyed the battle as much as we did, which is always good to see.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's why these guys and girls turn up, isn't it? They just want some good racing, and I can guarantee Oulton Park is going to give some good racing. It's a fantastic UK circuit. Absolutely love it. Attended it many times for motorcycles and car racing, and it never ever disappoints. It's all about commitment around here. As we see Martin Booker, he's potentially going to improve on his time, I think, but he's coming round now to complete across the line, so we'll see what he can do.
He will indeed, see if he can extend. Well, he is going to improve here, surely, and extend his margin at the top. Although, oh yes, he does. There we go, a 13-2. So we are going to get into the 12 by the looks of things by the end of this one. Graham Brown and Paul Crabb also running well there. Paul LeMay slots up into 4th position. Paul Clark over the line as well from 7th place. He should be able to get into the top 5, and he does. 5th place, just ahead of Kirkman and Dan Webster, who's here, the season 3 champion in 2021. Darryl Taylor will be through the final corner now. 8th place in the championship at the moment. Just moved up ahead of John McCutcheon after his performance in the last round. Richard Brown goes up towards the line. One of the 3 Browns in this championship, but the only one with an E at the end. So make note of that. Over the line he goes, and it's going to be a top 10 surely. Top 7 for him with that 7th position. Graham Brown though, 2nd place, only a quarter of a tenth behind Martin Booker, who's very marginally, or 3/4 of a tenth I should say, only very marginally up ahead of him on the road here at the moment. Through the final corner they go, and it's a complete hot lapping contest between the two of them. Booker over the line now, and he's surely going to be into the 12s of that lap time, but it doesn't look like he's improved at all. Graham Brown can though, he's into even lower 13s as Booker didn't improve very marginally. Paul LeMay slots up into 4th place as well. It looks like Graham Brown might just have done enough here for the pole position with that lap time. Paul Clark is going to run him close as well. Only 2 attempts back, but he can only manage 3rd. Now what about Dan Webster? We know how quick he is, but he's not really shone through this season just yet. Maybe now is the time to rise to the fore. Over the line he goes. And it doesn't, it is an improvement ever so slightly. A 6th place for him as these guys complete their lap times. Most of them complete at this stage. And some big surprises there, I have to say. These final lap times we usually see rocketing down towards the peak pace, but these final lap times were not very much quicker than the second laps there, which is something we haven't seen all season.
Yeah, and I think some of that is to do with the nature of the circuit, Ewan. I think it is a difficult circuit to string that lap together. There's no real respite around here. There's no real straights to sit back and relax, and it is all about getting that entry point and executing that perfect lap, as it were. And it is very difficult. But isn't it great to see all those times so close, all the way down, really down to sort of around about 6th or 7th place? It's pretty tight, and that's going to set us up for a fantastic start. It's going to be all about who can get into Old Hall Corner clean. Come through there, I'm sure, side by side, down the avenue, brave into Cascades, and then potentially the hairpin could be a bottleneck for the first lap.
Yeah, certainly could. And the chicane as well isn't going to do much to help going through the only chicane of the 2 which is being used here today. Sergio De La Cruz, by the way, is still out there, and he's on his final lap time right now, but we'll see how much of a benefit being on your final one actually is to him really in this one, because we've seen the final lap time not be that great so far in this session. Still over 2 minutes to go, by the way. We've got plenty of time because of the short nature of this circuit. These guys have got plenty of time to get their laps in here, and so they're going to use it by the looks of things. The 84 car running up the hill now. We jump up to Ray Peasley, who's going over the line here. Over a second adrift for now, and so is Martina Ward, and she's not going to be improving and getting below a second behind Graham Brown here, because unfortunately he's tagged the wall somewhere along the line. Sergio De La Cruz has had a nice clean run though by the looks of things, and he's coming up towards the line right now. Might be able to get a position or 2. Richard Brown is not that far in front of him at all. It doesn't look like he can improve at all. He's actually done almost exactly the same lap time as he did for his best, so not able to improve. And James Child as well, qualified 11th at Hockenheim. It's a better performance from him this time, inside the top 10 again for 8th for James Child, and he's still got 1 to go here, really using all of the time and I suppose it's one way to get yourself on the telly as well, I suppose.
Get yourself on the TV, and more importantly, I think, give yourself some nice, clean, clear track as well. We see James do this week after week. He's always the last man out on track, and really trying to get the most effective space around him. So let's see what he can do. And as he's currently sat there in 8th place, and he needs a few more tenths to improve and to get past Dave Kirkman. And I'm not quite sure he's going to get that this time, but he has got some green sectors.
He certainly has. We'll see if he can improve, but he's got 2.5 tenths, nearly a quarter of a second there to even make up 1 place on Kirkman. From then on, they start to fall quite quickly, but it's a big gap to bring down. All in one lap here through the final corner goes Child. It's a difficult one for him to execute this one, but can he do it? Over the line, Kirkman 7th at the moment. Is he going to be pushed down to... Oh my goodness me, he is!
Ow.
Because James Child has pulled out one of the laps of the season to improve by 3/4 of a second and more to take this pole position at Oulton Park. The only man into the 1:12s. And James Child has taken pole position. What an extraordinary lap that was. Pulling it out of the bag. Absolutely I had no idea where that came from. And he might not know either, but he's on pole for this race. What an unbelievable lap time that is.
Yeah, I bow my head in shame. I doubted the fact that he'd even make up a couple of tenths to get past Kirkman. Not only does he do that, he sticks it on the front row. What an absolute amazing qualifying lap from him.
And it's given him pole position ahead of Graham Brown, who will be alongside here in a few moments' time. Martin Booker and Paul Clark behind them, with Paul Crabb rounding out the top 5. Paul LeMay, second in the championship, looking to gain some points on Simon Edwards today, who'll do that from at least starting in 6th, ahead of a previous champion. Dan Webster in 7th. Dave Kirkman has been pushed down to 8th after that late lap time from James Child, with Richard Brown and Sergio Cruz on the 5th row together, rounding out the top 10. On the 6th row, it's Colin Wynne and Darrell Taylor in 11th and 12th. Then we've got Michael LeMay and Dave Dowson. Martina Ward will round out the top 15 ahead of Ray Peasley. Mike Booson, surprising to see him so far down, 1.6 seconds off the pace, just ahead of Phil Jocelyn. Jamie Bird and Christopher Kane round out your top 20. Then Guy Robertson, Graham Brown and Phil Glover round out the 23 car grid here for tonight's race. Well, I think some of these drivers are going to be in a bit of shock, as is James Child after that particular lap time, because he really did pull that one out the bag, and he'll be on pole for this one when he lines up in a few moments' time, and we'll see if he can get into turn 1 first and control the lead of this race from there, because track position is going to be important around here. Oulton Park in the UK&I Radical Race Series. Here we go, 23 laps and we're underway. It's a terrible start, I'm afraid, for Paul Clark on the 2nd row there, but James Child has had a decent one. He's able to sweep around the outside into turn 1 and take the lead. Martin Butler just behind him, Graham Brown following in. Paul Clark has got up to 4th place into Paul Crabb, and then Paul LeMay, who's in 6th place where he started. Look how close this is though as we go into the Island Bend, the hairpin edition this time around. It all bottlenecks up as we go through the cut through here, but James Child looks like he has executed that pole position very well indeed, and takes an early lead at Oulton Park.
Yeah, absolutely fantastic start. He was really quick out the blocks there, and he got his nose down there, he got clean, he got away, and he's doing the job. Just seeing somebody running on there a little bit, taking the escape road sensibly probably on the first lap, and just trying to come through as clean as they can. It's still fairly tight further back though. We've got Dave Kirkman here with Dan Webster trying to make up a position in this early part of the race, and it's all fairly tight round here at the moment. But James Child is the man out in front, and he's got the pace, he's doing enough. He's just going to prove that qualifying lap was not a fluke now, and just match it with some good race pace.
Looks like that was Richard Brown, by the way, who went across the chicane there on the first lap. At least he's still falling down the field. Dave Dowson has moved up a place, but yeah, look at this. Martin Booker applying a lot of pressure to Child at the moment. These first few corners down the hill, the left-hander at Cascades, very flowing but difficult corner. You can get a lot of understeer there because of the downhill nature of it, and it's not the smoothest of corners in terms of service as well, so you do have to be careful with some of these kind of low swung cars, but Let's have a look at what happened a little bit further down the field in that opening lap. We saw Child executing his start well, and I saw Kirkman trying to make up for it. Excuse me, Dan Webster trying to make up for a bad start, but Colin Wynn has had a worse one there. He's getting tipped around. He said the hairpin might be the bottleneck, and that was proof of it really. Mike Booson in the middle of all this as well, not where he wanted to start this race, and that this is the kind of stuff which demonstrates exactly why. There's Colin Wynn already gone around, and Booson hasn't even done anything wrong himself, but he had to come to a complete stop there.
Yeah, absolutely. Like I say, just that bottleneck, such the nature of the corner, obviously, and the amount of cars going into it for the first lap there, all very, very tight. But the battling is great, the battling is good, and we've got battling up and down the field now. And James Child soaking up the pressure at the moment. That gap is staying constant around about the 210s. Martin Booker, I think they're obviously going to be getting the cars up to 10, just get the tyres up there, get the brakes working properly. We might see him applying a little bit more pressure. Graham Brown struggling to hang on to the back of them though, and it's turning into a two-man battle here.
He's just a little bit on lap 3 at the moment. Richard Brown's race, by the way, is going from bad to worse because he's in the pit lane right now and he's dropped to the very back of the field. Even Darryl Taylor's got through on him now after having dropped 10 places off of this start from his 12th place qualifying position, as Dave Dowson looks like he's had some problems, and it's involving others as well by the looks of things. Phil Jocelyn, is that? Maybe it is who got involved. Let's have a look. Going into the Island Bend, the hairpin right-hander. What's happened here to Dowson? He's on the grass and he tips around the 04 car of Phil Jocelyn. That is a mistake from Dowson, just getting on the grass. And unfortunately, he's tipped around someone else involved in his accident there.
Yeah, it looked like, forgive me, one of the cars, I couldn't remember which one it was, but one of the cars was unstable on the brakes there, just really sort of dancing around, and I think that was part of the incident as well, really, just looked a little bit out of shape, and obviously full commitment into that hairpin so hopefully you don't get an overtake, but obviously they came to grief there. But again, James Child still doing the job, holding Martin Booker back, and we've seen Martin Booker involved in some good scraps in this championship so far, and he's not going to give up, but at the moment Child, it looks like he's almost got it under control, as Brown getting very close to the back of Booker then and almost giving him a little bit of a nudge into the hairpin.
Poor first couple of laps to Graham Brown, but he's right with them now on lap 4 here into the chicane. The right hander at Hislops, and then the chicane, and then the right hander at the end is Nickerbrook, and he's coming up the hill again towards the end of the lap. But Booker now in an awkward situation. He wants to attack Child, but also doesn't want to open the door for Graham Brown to walk through into second place, so he's in that awkward attacking and defending middle ground, if you like.
Absolutely, I think
into the final corner.
Got Phil Jocelyn there, just he's not enjoying his evening. I think he jumped back to the pits from this incident, so just wanted to have a quick look at that and see what was going on. But yeah, he's jumped back to the pits, and not sure he's taking any further part.
No, possibly not. Unfortunately for him, it's like I don't know who. I think it was just a retirement from him. Pretty frustrated with the way that all panned out in the end. Good on board with Phil Glover, under pressure from Martina Ward. These two have been battling together for a great deal of time at this stage. They're going through the left-hand cascades and into hairpin. Is there an opening here for Martina to maybe get down the inside? Late on the brakes, but Glover's going to defend from that one. And a little bit wide, but found that position fair enough. And these battles are going to continue on way down the field for lap after lap, you'd imagine. In this one, including the front three, of course, for the lead. As we look at these guys, James Child, of course, still leading. We've got 18 laps to defend here. Admittedly, at a circuit like this one, it's a lot easier than it would be at a Hockenheim, for example. But he's still got a lot of pressure and a lot of time to soak it up.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think the nature of the circuit at the moment, it's splitting some of the cars up a little bit. And when I say splitting up, the gaps aren't massive. We're talking some of them are a couple of seconds. There's a lot of them within a second. But it's a gap, it's a safety zone for the driver, it's a comfort zone, shall we say, and James Child is one of those drivers that is trying to create a comfort zone, and he is eking out a couple of tenths here and there. He's now almost up to 4 tenths clear, but that's going to concertina up now as they head into the hairpin. We're going to look at Brown. He's not quite as aggressive into the hairpin this time, not quite as close on the back of Martin Booker, but they're still very much in touch with each other, and it looks like Paul LeMay's just maybe lost a place into the hairpin, and he's going to be looking to come straight back if he can on Dan Webster, but it's not going to happen this time.
No, not on this occasion. It's difficult to get through here, it really is. It's a narrow circuit anyway. There's not too many big braking zones. The fact that there is a hairpin does help, as we've got Christopher Kane here through the off on the curbs and then off on the grass, and ouch. Kane, hopefully, and he goes across the road. That's one of those occasions where holding the brakes would have actually been a worse idea, which is why it's always an awkward one when people say hold the brakes in all situations, because it's not always the right thing to do. As Kane had the awareness though, and the common sense, I guess, to get that one out of the way. But it's a very, very difficult corner, fast left-hander up the hill there, not flat either in terms of its elevation there at Druids Corner, and you can get yourself into trouble quite quickly with the proximity of the barriers at Oulton Park.
Yeah, absolutely. Damage is never far away if you go off the track, but we're getting a few battles just sort of developing a little bit, shall we say, up and down the field, but this one at the front, he's getting very, very close now, and it looks like Booker, he showed his nose then, didn't he, and he was thinking about it, and these three now are as close as they ever have been while we're on lap 7 at the moment, so this is really hotting up now, and I think Booker's feeling the pressure from Brown behind, and I think he's wanting to potentially pass some of that pressure on to Child.
Yeah, absolutely, it's starting to hot up here. Child doesn't look like quite the quickest out of these three, really. The other two are able to keep pace with him quite easily ever since early on in this race. In the case of Booker, since the very start, he's been able to keep very close to Child. And up the hill and over the line once again for these three. In the first turn, very, very quick indeed. Running it out just a little bit wide. You can use quite a lot of that exit there, because some of it's kind of AstroTurf, because you can drive it a bit better than that, but what you'd call it, it's not quite grass either, so whatever you like, but it's not tarmac, it's a strange thing, but you can drive on it quite easily, and you do tend to run very wide through there. That it's very, very viable. As we go into the chicane again, Paul Crabb looking to make the moves here with an exit off Paul Clark, but you're always going to be struggling for their time to take a tighter line than your opponent. Always going to be sliding out, as we saw there from Crabb. Booker also looking every which way he can go through. Going to be difficult to make a move through the left-hander of that chicane though.
Yeah, Crabb, it's going to be nice to see if he can get a decent result. He's been a driver throughout the series that's shown us some good pace, but he's also been involved in a few incidents and he's maybe not had the results that the pace would suggest he's capable of. So it's good to see Paul Crabb getting up the order and getting a good result tonight.
He would. Towards the line. Over it again. For these leaders. Looking back for fourth as well. There's a lot of cars involved here. 5 of them, you could say. Maybe 6 with Sergio Cruz here as well. Out through the first corner. We're starting to see and we did suspect at the start really that this might happen, because it's such a difficult circuit to overtake on Oulton Park. Trains may form, and they absolutely have here. 3 for the lead and 6 for 4th at the moment. There's a lot of them going around.
Yeah, they're all swapping positions as well into the hairpin there. Not quite sure who's gained and who's benefit, but looks like Paul Crabb's got ahead of Dan Webster there, so he's looking good and making the move on Webster and getting that position. But the guys up at the front there are ever closer now, and it's looking like Booker has definitely got the bit between his teeth. And just a few laps ago we were saying how Child was looking a little bit more comfortable, looking like he almost had it under control, but no, Booker's got other ideas, and he's closing back in on the back of him. Interestingly though, they are dropping Brown a little bit.
I don't know whether Child has picked his pace up a little bit, or whether that is Brown making a mistake. Let's see, as they come across the line once again. At times seem to be in the fairly normal range for Brown. It looks like Child and Booker might have ever so slightly picked this one up, but he made a bit of a mistake there through the first turn, did Booker. and got all out of shape. He held on to his car, but he's all okay, or at least he's lost a few car lengths. Meanwhile, further back, Dan Webster got through on Paul Crabb. Just want to talk about Paul LeMay briefly, because it's a big opportunity for him today to close the gap on Simon Edwards, and he's not really doing that so far. Only would get 24 points of those 61 games. Of the 61, he come in here with a disadvantage to Simon Edwards. That's not very many, really.
Yeah, and when we were looking at the championship standing zone, we did point out, didn't we? The stats show that he hasn't had a win yet, and it sort of speaks volumes itself that is he capable of that win, which is what he needs tonight to close that gap up. That's the opportunity, and like you say, he's not in a position to do that, and it's not looking like he's going to gain as many points as are on the table.
It doesn't look like it's going to be a good day for him at all, but we're not even halfway yet. Anything can happen, and he's in a big train that could well yield him a few more points. If he gets to the front of it, he gains another 4, so he'll be aiming to do that. Colin Wynn has already been tapped around into a spin earlier on today. Is his take on from bad to worse? Well, yes. Unfortunately, I think that might be a retirement for him, actually, breaking too late into the chicane. And he's not retired, but he's at least at the back end of the race, 20th at the moment. Harold Taylor, Christopher Kane and Phil Dunstan are all out as this battle for the lead is hotting up ever more now. Martin Bucker finally with the inside line into the chicane. Charlie, if he can hold it here, will get the inside for the second part, but he can't. And Martin Bucker takes the lead. Wonder how that one really started to form, because first of all, Booker's got some damage on that rear end, and second of all, Charles didn't seem to fight that one very hard at all, which is strange in such a short race, and strange at a circuit like this under any circumstances.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's an easier circuit to defend at, is Oulton Park, but it's also it's dangerous when you do start to come under that pressure, because it's easy to make a mistake also, and potentially you lose that position, as we just seen Webster and Clark just really going for it there, hammer and tong, but Clark's got the upper hand at the moment and hangs on to that 4th place, but he's very much under pressure from Dan Webster behind.
At the moment, this is the interval gaps at the moment to see where the battle packs are, and 4th place, it's started to become just the two of them, Paul Clark and Dan Webster, getting away from the rest. Paul Crabb becoming a bit of a cork in the bottle behind. Webster, though, looking every which way to try and get through on Crabb. Webster, by the way, really hasn't attended very many races this season. Only 4 races so far. As we see, Paul LeMay is trying to gain points today, but it's not going his way whatsoever. 11th place for him now as he gets into an accident coming down in towards the hairpin. I'm sure we're going to replay of that in a few moments' time, but that is exactly not what you need. This is what happens when you're in a train, and I'm afraid it's absolutely not his fault at all by the looks of that.
No, he was very much a victim there, wasn't he? It was just a late break lunge, and I'm not even sure it was a calculated lunge, and maybe just more a case of missing breaking point, but the result was the same, and it was a very unfortunate one for LeMay. Was that he did need to score as many points as he could this evening, but it's not happening for him, as we're seeing Michael LeMay here just losing out a little bit to Jamie Bird, but that gap is still relatively close.
He's still quite close. Paul Clark still defending. Webster had a decent opportunity into the hairpin last time around. We'll see if he decides to be a bit more decisive this time into the slipstream, although Clark is wise to that one. Puts his car kind of in the middle of the road, kind of towards the inside to cover that one off. And really, here at this circuit, because the two most obvious overtaking opportunities are the hairpin and the chicane, because they're both right-handers, just stay on the right-hand side of the circuit, then it's very difficult for you to get your way around the outside of either of those corners. I don't want to say it's easy to defend around here, but it's easier than we've seen on circuits so far.
Yeah, I mean, I'm no great expert. I've not done a lot of time in these radicals. I've raced a lot at Oulton Park, but on the sims, but not in the radicals. But I think, going into that hairpin, really, I think you need to be, if you're the aggressor, you need to be on the left-hand side and look for a cutback if you can. Force your opponent to go in tight so that they've got the slower exit, and see if you can get alongside them and try and get that inside for the chicane that follows. But hey, it's easy to say that from where I'm sitting.
It is easy to say that for us, but also the hairpin is a little bit more rounded than you would on a normal cutback corner. There's kind of, It's kind of a long apex there. You stay to the inside for quite a long time there, and so it doesn't lend itself great to undercuts. But I do think that is probably your best opportunity here for Dan Webster. Because look, where's he meant to go here? There's no space on the right. Driver's right there. And here's what I mean about the undercut thing. Well, first of all, he's got the problem of Paul Crabb right behind him, which always makes undercuts difficult when there's somebody behind you. But it's a very rounded corner, and so you can't get a great exit. And then again, to further add to your troubles, that straight isn't very long either.
No, it's not. I think there's still an opportunity there. I think if you're putting enough pressure on them, it is almost a double apex, or like you say, an extended apex on that hairpin. But it is possible, I think, but it's going to take some setting up.
There's no doubt about that. As we go over the hill once again, Druid's corner, not to be confused with Druid's at Brands Hatch, of course. Familiar with your English circuits or your British circuits, I should say. But there we are. Over the line once again for Dan Webster. Is it going to be in 4th place this time? Next time we're over the line, though, because he's applying all of this pressure. He's looking like, of everybody in the field, he looks like the most likely to make an overtake in the next few moments, although a mistake through turn 1 is going to make things a little bit more difficult. We go on to replay because Dave Dowson has got into trouble on the last lap here. He got onto the grass and got into another car at this corner a few laps ago. Well, it's a different kind of issue for him at this corner this time round, and I'm afraid he's called it a day.
Yeah, absolutely. He's decided to call it a day and retire early, but Jamie Bird, who has not called it a day, is looking to put some pressure on Ray Peasley, and he's managed to get the better exit out there, but he is on the outside now as they come down to the chicane. But is he going to be able to hang it round the outside and take the inside line? He's not. He gets squeezed. That was fair but aggressive. That really did. He nearly took the nose off there, but yeah, had every right to do that, did Peasley, and he defended aggressively, but defended very, very well there. But that's what I mean. It is possible to get that exit speed out of the hairpin and force your opponent to defend again.
Oh, good exit there from Jamie, but he's getting some fantastic exits off of these corners, and Ray Peasley has nowhere to go really now. Outside line, but through the final turn at Lodge Corner, and he's going to get absolutely he's going to get trained here, as it were, down the inside for another 2 cars quite possibly. Michael LeMay and Paul LeMay are both very close in attendance as we go up to Dan Webster, still applying the pressure. And look at Paul Crabb now, fancies a piece of this as well. And coming into our bend, hairpin. Maybe an exit here, maybe the undercut you were talking about here, but even still, he's got a better exit, but it's still not good enough to get alongside Webster. Very interesting battle though, looking for 8th place there. 5 cars involved, another train, as we're used to seeing at this circuit.
Yeah, absolutely, and it's all about, as I said before, it's all about accuracy around this track. You can use the curves as we saw them there, but just run that little bit too wide and you're on the grass. This next corner that they're coming up to, the double right-hander, I always find this the hardest corner to get consistently right every time. It's almost a blind entry into the corner, and you can't see the exit until you're halfway through the corner, and it's just getting that throttle application just right and not having to lift halfway around the corner and lose speed. And it's a difficult one. I always do find that the hardest on the circuit to get right.
Ray Peasley is finding all of these corners very difficult at the moment. He's very much the cork in the bottle. However, there's been an issue here for Michael LeMay. He got through briefly on Peasley, but he's now down to 12 after getting into trouble by the looks of things. We're going to replay that shortly as well, but Paul LeMay has benefited from that greatly. He's gained another 2 places. He's back up into 9th and nearly recovered to 7th from where he had his problems a little bit early on, getting spun around by Kirkland. This is what happened to Michael LeMay though, and it was Ray Peasley trying to re-overtake LeMay down the inside at the final corner. Michael LeMay wasn't budging, and in the end something had to give. Unfortunately, LeMay went around.
Yeah, for sure. And one thing that has happened is Martin Booker, he hasn't really checked out at the front, but he's got 7/10 back to Child in 2nd place now, with Brown a further half a second or so back from Child. So these 3 have split up enough so that they're not having to defend from each other and battle. But these guys here, Webster he's having to defend hard now from Cruz behind, who's applying enough pressure and close enough to strike if there's a mistake.
Well, Webster was having to defend from Paul Crabb not so long ago. However, Crabb made a mistake and he's dropped to 13th. Well, more than a mistake, that's a full-on accident. somewhere along the line. Here it is. Oh goodness, through Druid's corner. Gets on the grass on the outside, and oh, it's nosed into the barrier quite hard as well.
That's the corner I was just talking about. That's exactly the issues I was talking about. Yeah.
He's going to struggle to finish in the top 15 with that damage, though. That's a hit on the wall.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you know, Crab, as I said earlier as well, he's got the pace. He tends to have the speed around the circuits. It's just that consistency. You know, I'm sure he'll forgive me for saying he just seemed to lack some of that consistency, and he gets involved in a few incidents here and there, and it just costs him, I think, a few good results throughout the season.
To be dropping down, and he's got Corbett and Brown behind him at the moment in battles a little bit further down. At 18 then by the looks of things. So it's 5 to go at the end of this one. Not very long at all really. Only just over 6 minutes because it's a very short lap around here. So it's not much time for Dan Webster to get through. He's been hounding Paul Clark. No way through. Oh, inside at turn 2. Cascades. You don't often see moves here. And that was brave. Down the inside, but not enough for him to be able to get through. He's going to have a second bite of the cherry here at Island Bend, as braking early was Clark. Now the cutback maybe, but he's too wide for that one, Webster. That was brave down Cascades, and fair play to Paul Clark for seeing him coming and giving him the room there, because it could have ended in absolute disaster for the both of them.
Yeah, very much so, and I think that's it's great respect there to Webster, you know, for spotting him, like you say, and seeing him coming, because it's wiser just to give him that bit of room, isn't it? And even if it potentially puts you at risk of that position, because contact, and you could be talking about losing 3, 4, 5, 6 positions, and even race-ending contact. So great driving, very heads up, and great awareness.
It certainly was from the both of them. Through the final corner, Old Lodge corner, and out onto the straight once more into turn 1. But no way through here, surely. What to say that now, because of Webster making moves anywhere he wants. Maybe another move here, although Clark knows it's coming this time. You see him leave a few tyres width to the right hand side that time, just covering off that move ever so slightly without compromising his run too much onto this all-important straight here. Now into the hairpin, a little bit wide for Clark. Is that a good enough run from Webster? As down the inside comes Kirkman on Ray Peasley. Has he got the move? Well, around the outside, excuse me. Down the inside, at ninth place, not able to do it. They all go wide. Kirkman is going to sweep through on the inside line. They make a little bit of contact, and they're still going side by side, up over the crest of the hill and into the chicane. Around the outside for Peasley, and he's managed to make that work. He's defending very well here, and considering the amount of pressure he's been under all of this race, but all of a sudden he drops out of the race. I feel like he might have reached the incident limit with the suddenness where he dropped out there without having seen it, of course.
Yeah, for sure. Look at this battle here now with Clark and Webster. It's looking pretty tight again. And is there going to be another lunge on this lap? Is there going to be another attack? Because we are now we're on lap 21 of 23, so time is running out for any potential overtakes and positions gained. But it's not going to happen there. He's not going to be close enough either, is Dan Webster, when they get into the hairpin, I don't feel, but he's not going to be able to set anything up. And as you say, there are so fewer opportunities round this lap that it's difficult to see where he's going to get that overtake. Maybe into the final corner. That's not a bad one, and up through Deers Leap onto the start-finish straight. If you can get into there deep on the brakes, potentially that's a good opportunity.
Difficult to do it anywhere though, really, as we've seen from Webster so far. I kind of feel like if he did have the ability to make this move, he would have done it already by this point. But then again, that doesn't account for mistakes that could happen. And here's Michael LeMay though. He was very much involved with Peasley. Oh dear, that's what happened. And Michael LeMay got tipped around as well. So I feel like Peasley might have reached the limit as well. But I thought it was just due to an off-track or a slight grazing of the wall. Didn't quite realise the extent of the accident there. Not the first radical we've seen flipping over in the last 2 weeks. So I have to say they seem quite liable to be falling over a bit.
Pretty lightweight though, aren't they? I suppose once they start going, there's not a lot of weight to keep them down. They will sort of fly through the air, as it were. But Webster's really getting the pressure on now. We've got Busson and Kirkman there battling away behind for what is P12. Martin Booker's comfortably out there, nearly a second gap back to Child in second place, but great race from Child. I think he's been the surprise this evening for me.
Yeah, well, his qualifying lap certainly was the surprise of the century, you could say, because he pulled that one out the bag. Nearly a second of an improvement to take pole. Doesn't look like he's going to be able to convert that into a victory. Martin Booker might well just take that one, but yeah, it was a very good qualifying performance. Martin Booker, though, looking to come through the final corner and just complete one more lap in the lead of this race. Take his first race victory of the season and become the 4th different race winner in this UK&I Ireland Radical Race Series Championship season. As we see Dan Webster applying all the pressure he can, and it's panic stations now. Try and get through wherever you can, even into turn 1 if it's possible, but it isn't. And so, he's lost it. He's sliding all over the place. He's saved it, but that might well be the end of his chances of getting through.
Yeah, potentially it was all on the line there, wasn't it? I was going to use an inappropriate phrase there, to be honest, but it was all out. He put everything on the table there and literally was going to make that move up the inside into turn 1 and compromise. Try and compromise Clark's exit out of turn 1, but it just didn't work, and you saw him get all sorts of crossed up there. Graham Brown sat in 3rd place at the moment. He has closed the gap up ever so slightly to Child, but I don't think he's going to do enough. But this man, Booker, is looking set to take the win now as he's coming around to the final part of the lap. Literally one more corner to go.
Absolutely, and it's going to be a very, very deserving victory for him. A nice move on James Child into the chicane has got him this race victory, as well as very solid pace throughout the day. Over the line, and at Oulton Park, it's going to be Martin Booker to win in the UK&I Ireland Radical Race Series. Dan Webster, after pressing all day long, can't get through on Paul Clark for 4th place, and Sergio Cruz comes home behind them. But it's Booker to become the 4th different race winner in this championship season. James Child 2nd, Graham Brown, last week's winner, comes home 3rd. A very, very interesting race indeed. Not too many overtakes, but a lot of battles throughout the day because of how difficult it was to overtake around here. Everybody really had to think about it very hard indeed. And Paul Crabb and Graham Brown even racing to the line there between the two of them. Two people who'd be probably quite disappointed with how their race has gone. But a very interesting race, despite how difficult it was for everybody. Very, very close at the front as well, of course.
Yeah, some good battles there, some good racing, and I said Oulton Park, it never disappoints. The front three they led away. Child leading for a good sort of part of that race, and then before he made it relatively easy for Booker to take the win, to take the lead away from him, as it were. But yeah, it was some good racing. I really enjoyed that, and those laps they've gone by very, very quickly. But let's have a look at the results.
Yes, let's take a look at those results now to kind of round off what happened during those 23 laps. Martin Booker took it by 3/4 of a second ahead of James Child, the pole sitter. Graham Brown, last week's winner, came home 3rd. Paul Clark held off Dan Webster for 4th. Sergio Cruz was watching from a distance in 6th. Jamie Bird got into a 7th place ahead of Paul LeMay, who did recover well after his spin with Dave Kirkman. Mike Booston, after qualifying very poorly in that race, raced very well and got up into 9th place. Dave Kirkman rounding out the top 10. That's Michael LeMay just outside of it. Paul Crabb's crash at Druid's Corner got him all the way down to 12th, I'm afraid, and he only just held off Graham Brown, who finished 13th. Phil Glover and Martina Ward round out your top 15. Richard Brown was 16th ahead of Colin Wynne, who finished over a minute down, and over 1 lap down was Guy Robertson. Afraid the rest of your drivers didn't finish in the end. Ray Peasley, Dave Dawson, Darrell Taylor, Christopher Kane and Phil Jolson, I'm afraid, couldn't get to the end. Well, a very good race, but more retirements than we've seen in the past, I have to say. I feel like that might be down to the kind of circuit this is. Very twisty. At the proximity of grass and gravel and the walls as well meant that we've got 5 retirements at the end of that one.
Yeah, absolutely. There was a fair few retirements and a little bit of attrition as we went round there, but yeah, it was still some good racing. And it's like you said, I think at one point during the race, Oulton Park, there isn't a lot of runoff area, and what there is, it's not tarmac, it's not concrete, it's grass, and you tend to speed up a little bit when you hit that grass, and you're not far away from the Armco or a heavy duty tyre barrier, and that's going to inflict some damage. So it's it's one of those tracks you've got to be pinpoint accurate, and I think that's why we saw in qualifying that the lap times weren't improving massively, but simply because you've got to be cautious around here. It's so easy to throw it all away and to wreck your lap, to wreck your race. So I think we saw some good heads up driving from a few of the guys as well, some great awareness from a few of them as well, and some unlucky moves into their hairpin. It has to be said, there was a few outbraking manoeuvres, a little bit of contact there, and a few cars turned around here and there, but generally the racing was pretty good this evening, and like I say, I really enjoyed that.
It was pretty good indeed. Let's talk briefly about next week as well. While we're here, penultimate round, of course, Barbara Motorsports Park. This championship becoming almost wrapped up here for Simon Edwards. We'll see if he returns, of course, but another one of those circuits that's going to be very, very difficult to overtake, and I feel like people aren't going to be that accustomed to it either, because it's not used overly in the iRacing service, really. So there may be a bit of a difference between the drivers there in terms of their experience on that circuit.
Yeah, it's certainly going to be interesting. I mean, it's coming to the end of the championship, and we might be able to start working out a few of the drop round scenarios as well to see where it's going to be, because that championship is going to close up, no doubt about it. I think the only position that's pretty secure at the moment is Edwards up front, and he just needs to turn up for a couple of races to score some more points. But he's done a great job in the races he has, and I think he's won 4 of the races he's been in. So I mean, he's done what he needs to do. But yeah, the rest of the battle throughout that championship, it's going to be tight, and I think, like you say, when the drop rounds come in, it's going to be very, very interesting, and it's going to be good to see. But to be honest, Nordschleife, I'm looking forward to that one.
Yeah, the Nordschleife is going to be very, very good indeed. That is going to round off our season, of course. Doesn't look like, unfortunately, we're going to actually get anybody in the interview. I know Phil Glover's in there at the moment, but he's been there the whole race, so I'm not sure if he's actually there, if you see what I mean. But either way, we'll hopefully get to speak to some people next week. I think that our issues last week might be putting a few people off, but hopefully for next week we'll have everything ironed out all nicely, and we'll speak to at least the podium drivers after next week's race at Barbara Motorsports Park, of course. So that has been your UK&I Ireland Radical Race Series 10th round for 2022 here in Season 1. It's been at Oulton Park, and very good racing once again indeed. Expect more of the same time, same place.